Hi, it's Katrina.
Number 10. The Thracian Chariot. A team of archaeologists in Bulgaria dug a chariot out of the ground dating back 2,000 years. It once belonged to a Thracian nobleman. This was 2008. Over a decade later, and this is still one of the most impressive Thracian discoveries ever made. Researchers identified scenes from Thracian mythology painted on the chariot. Nearby, they uncovered the remains of a man dressed in warrior's armor. They even found a small treasure trove of gold coins, jewelry, and a silver chalice decorated with the Greek version of Cupid, the Roman god of love. But they also found all the bits and pieces needed for the chariot to work, including the harness and tools, and the bones of the horse. The Thracians were a nomadic group of people who came on the scene about 5,000 years ago. They lived throughout the Slavic territories and primarily in Bulgaria. When the Romans began their expansion, the Thracians were taken over and subjugated. They would later be assimilated with the Slavs. The most famous Thracian was Spartacus, the slave who led a revolt against the Roman Republic between 73 and 71 BC. In ancient Thrace, chariot burials were extremely popular for those who could afford it. In this case, the horses were slaughtered as sacrifices to the gods. Archaeologists found evidence of a few dogs being slaughtered as well to appease the gods even further. They also left behind jewelry and other valuable objects that the dead individual could take with them to the afterlife. Number 9. The Mummified Nobles. An archaeological mission discovered a shocking collection of ancient sealed sarcophagi at the Saqqara necropolis near Cairo, Egypt. These sarcophagi date back about 2,500 years and were found in shockingly good condition. You may most likely have heard about Saqqara before, but what exactly is it? Saqqara was used as a necropolis where the people from Memphis, the old capital of Egypt, were buried. People of noble birth, many members of the royal family, and even local rulers were buried in this sprawling cemetery. It's located only about 10 miles from the Great Pyramid of Giza, although the necropolis is about 2,000 years younger than the pyramids. Archaeologists revealed 59 painted coffins, the majority of which were likely used for burying priests, top officials, and elite members of Egyptian society. Upon their death, these upper-class citizens would have had their brains removed from their skulls with an iron hook. Their body would be wrapped delicately in fabrics, and then their sarcophagi expertly painted in bright colors. The coffins were found in burial shafts upwards of 36 feet deep. These are tunnels carved diagonally underground and then filled with coffins put inside individual burial areas. It doesn't look like any mummy had any particular significance. There weren't any kings or queens. As far as researchers can tell, it's a lot of people who would have been filthy rich and politically connected. Number 8. Ancient Odeon. The ruined city of Lissos can be found tucked into the side of a mountain cove in southwest Crete, one of the many Greek islands. Because the city is considered isolated, it hasn't seen much in the way of archaeological investigations. It was only recently that researchers began combing through the destruction of what was once a powerful metropolis to uncover its truth. One of their greatest discoveries so far is an ancient Odeon, like a really primitive version of an auditorium. No one knows exactly when Lissos was first inhabited. It shows up in the history books in the 4th century BC, but was likely occupied before that. It was located directly across the Mediterranean Sea from Cyrene, another major Greek city located in modern Libya. This means Lissos was an important stop for traders moving across the Mediterranean. Since it saw so much traffic, the city flourished and grew prosperous. Other archaeological finds include a temple to the ancient Greek god of medicine Asclepius, a residential area, a small cemetery with tombs, and even Christian churches. Of course, the churches were built long after the temple. The newly found Odeon is the first major structure discovered here in more than 50 years. According to Katerina Tsanakaki from Effort of Antiquities of Khania, the Odeon was used for lectures, musical contests, or literary and theatrical performances. It was complete with 14 rows of seats, 2 side chambers, and was built about 1,600 years ago. But at some time in the ancient past, boulders destroyed it. Its destruction likely came around 365 AD during a powerful earthquake, which spawned a tsunami that destroyed much of Lissos. Number 7. 2,700-year-old face cream. Scholars from the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing examined the tomb of a nobleman from 2,700 years ago in northern China. While digging through his tomb in 2017, the archaeologists found something a little bizarre. They came across a small bronze jar filled with weird lumps of what looked like hardened white powder. Scientist Yimin Yang and his team were extremely curious to see what the strange material in the jar was, so they completed a full chemical analysis on the substance. They soon identified it as face cream, making it one of the earliest known examples of a man using cosmetics in China. But who in the world was this guy, and why was he putting on face cream? This is a little more complex. Archaeologists figure he was an elite member of society during the spring and autumn period, between 771 and 476 BC. However, almost nothing else is known about him. A full breakdown of the substance in the bronze jar revealed what the mysterious makeup was made out of. The concoction was a mix of animal fat and moon milk, a unique material found in limestone caves. The combination would have worked as a whitening powder, making the user's face pale when applied. Researchers believe that whitening his face with cosmetics helped the nobleman look more royal, thereby helping him to lord over the lower-class members of society. Because, in ancient China, only the wealthiest citizens could afford to hide from the sun and grow pale. And now for number 6. But first, I want to give a big shout out to Vincent Alexander and In the Name of Justice. Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. Number 6. The Pet Cemetery. Archaeologists in Egypt came across an extremely unusual discovery. Forget about the tombs of pharaohs and hidden pyramids. We now have the oldest pet cemetery on record. Researchers identified a burial ground from 2,000 years ago used specifically for pets. The remains of cats, monkeys, and other animals that were kept as companions were found entombed here. Many were still wearing collars decorated in stone beads and glass. Yes, the Egyptians had some issues with sacrificing animals and turning them into mummies. It was just part of their cultic activity. But according to researcher Marta Oysipinska from the Polish Academy of Sciences, none of the mummified animals here showed signs of death by human hands. Instead, all the animals appeared to have died from sickness or old age. They were kept and looked after even in their last years, suggesting a close emotional connection. They were also buried with great care, wrapped in blankets, placed in the sleeping position, and covered with small treasures. The pet cemetery dates back to the 1st century AD, during a rough transition when Rome took control of the country and citizens from the Roman Empire started flooding in. In total, archaeologists excavated 536 cats, 32 dogs, 15 monkeys, a fox, and a falcon. Some of the pets may have been used as work animals, like guard dogs and mousers. However, some of the dogs were toy-sized, even smaller than the cats. They would have been way too small to do anything useful. Marta says the discovery proves that human beings have always had a deep need for animal companionship. Number 5. Hieroglyphs in Ukraine. In the heart of Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, a lost cave system was discovered from over 1,000 years ago. The entrance to this mysterious cave system was found next to a dismantled house that had been deemed unsafe for habitation. A man named Dmytro Perov with the Center for Urban Development heard that there was going to be some construction going on in the neighborhood, and he remembered a tale told to him by his grandmother. At the beginning of the 20th century, his great-great-grandmother supposedly lived in the family manor next to an ancient cave that had been occupied by their ancestors. Nobody ever knew where it really was, or if the story was real, but Perov wanted to see if he could find it before construction started. He teamed up with some friends, went to the old abandoned property, and amazingly uncovered the hidden entrance to the caves. The system spreads underneath Kiev like branches of a maze and dates back to the late 9th century AD. That was when Kiev was under control of the Kievan Rus. Perov discovered all kinds of amazing things down in the dark. He found hieroglyphs that could date even further back to the 6th century BC. That was when Greek colonies began settling along the coast of the Black Sea on the Crimean Peninsula. The hieroglyphs are so worn that it's difficult to even see what they represent, but they appear to be pictures of animals linked to ancient ritual activity. Since the discovery, the development project has been cancelled, and more investigations will have to be done. Not sure how that's going to go given the current situation. Number 4. Humanity's first meal. Scientists have just discovered evidence of the very first cooked meal ever prepared by a human being. This might just be the most shocking discovery of 2022. To start at the beginning, it's important to understand that the shift from eating raw food like any other animal to cooked food was a huge event in human history. It was about as important as discovering the wheel. Being able to cook food instead of eating it raw would go on to change our bodies and help us to survive. For example, by doing things like cooking and salting food to preserve it, it allowed us to eat through the winter. At the Gesher Benot Yaakov archaeological site in Israel, researchers found fish teeth. When they studied these fish teeth, they discovered that they had been cooked as part of an early human's meal. Not Homo sapiens, though, or even Neanderthals. Researchers believe it was likely Homo erectus who cooked the fish 780,000 years ago over an open flame near the cave it called home. Study author Irit Zohar from Tel Aviv University says the Homo erectus was likely part of a group living alongside a nearby lake. They survived by catching freshwater species. This fish in particular was a Luciobarbus longiceps, and it could grow nearly 7 feet long. Researchers believe there was such an abundance of freshwater fish back then that the primitive humans could have caught them by hand. Number 3. The pregnant mummy. Scientists just reconstructed the face of a pregnant Egyptian mummy 2,000 years after she was wrapped in bandages and entombed. She's known only as the Mystery Lady, and she died between the ages of 20 and 30 while 28 weeks pregnant. She is currently believed to be the first embalmed human specimen complete with an unborn baby inside her. The discovery of the Mystery Lady is a unique one in the world of Egyptology. But now forensic scientists have taken things a step further. They used her skull and other body parts to recreate exactly what she may have looked like in the 1st century BC. And although it may not be perfect, it is very close. Italian forensic anthropologist Chantal Milani says even just the skull is anatomically unique and can give us hints as to what the face looked like, even without the skin. The facial reconstruction was completed to the best of the forensic scientists' abilities, bringing to life a nameless woman in such startling realism, it's like looking at her ghost. Number 2. The Tunnels of Ani. Ani is an ancient city that dates back 5,000 years. Located on the border of Turkey and Armenia. It's been known for centuries as the City of 40 Gates, situated on a hilltop near the Akuryan River. In Ani's heyday, it was just as magnificent and powerful as cities like Constantinople or Cairo. There were at least 100,000 residents by the 11th century AD, but in the years to come, it became a battleground between empires, leading it to be destroyed and forgotten. There are now hundreds of ancient ruins spread throughout the hillside, from crumbling Zoroastrian temples to ancient Christian churches. Ani is a city with a long and glorious history. It was settled around the year 3000 BC, but really hit its stride in the 5th century AD as it became a fortified international metropolis. But the biggest and most shocking discovery came in the 1880s. Locals accidentally broke through into the underground Ani, a secret city located underneath the normal city. It was a shock because everyone had forgotten that there was an entire subterranean network of rooms, tunnels, and dwellings underneath the main city. People found monk cells, meditation chambers, old parchments, and lots of lost treasure. Over the past almost 140 years, a total of 823 underground structures and caves have been identified. Reservoirs, stables, tombs, food stores, and even monasteries. Yet nobody is entirely sure what the underground city was used for, or who lived in it. We don't know why it was abandoned, forgotten, and sealed in the earth. Number 1. Etruscan Temple. A temple built by the Etruscans 2,500 years ago has been found in Vulci, Italy. Its discovery was partly by accident. Researchers from several different universities were investigating the urban structure and settlement strategy of the Etruscans when they came across the ruins of a temple. It was a shocking discovery because it was found just across the street from a different sacred structure called the Tempio Grande. Archaeologists were floored because typically ancient people didn't build two huge temples right next to each other at the same time. They usually spaced things out, or they wouldn't even have had a need for two almost identical temples. The city of Vulci was one of the most important urban centers in pre-Roman Italy, but getting to the root of the city has proved difficult, because when the Romans absorbed the Etruscans, they either reused their structures or built over them. This has made the original Etruscan buildings almost impossible to find. But now that researchers have unearthed two temples, they are closer to getting a clear picture of what the city looked like around the end of the 6th century BC. However, it's still not clear what the temples were used for, or which mysterious gods were worshipped within them. Thanks for watching! Which of these amazing discoveries did you find the most impressive? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon. Bye!